I'm particularly happy Animesh could join us today to share some insights about this solution with everyone. And thank you everyone for joining us today on this short case study kind of presentation about ZEE Way. What we're trying to do here is just share some of our learnings and insights in creating this award-winning gamification experience for Zee employees. To begin with, we would want to get into a little bit of what was the situation when we started discussing this project, what was the real need. Animesh, as I said earlier, before Animesh joined, would be in the best position to explain to us what Zee was looking for about 2 years ago when we started working on this project. Animesh?
Amit, thank you. And it's a pleasure to be here and truly delighted to be sharing this intervention's beginnings, as I call them. I think the challenges that we were facing is something that is pretty obvious and ubiquitous across almost every organization, definitely in India, but I would dare say the world. And these were really around the fact that physical inductions, and we were doing this, we started this entire effort well before COVID happened, and thank God for that. The physical induction process is becoming increasingly more complicated because of cost, because of logistics, pulling people out of businesses in a high growth scenario creates all kinds of challenges. Very often people don't land up. Because the induction is going to be delivered by multiple people, it's broadly inconsistent from time to time, or every individual presenter brings her or his own take and nuance into the conversation. And in a high growth scenario, which is what Zee was in when we were launching this, we were galloping to build out our entire digital OTT platform, and the media entertainment sector per se was just booming with high double-digit growth numbers. We were looking to find a way that would solve the problem of getting people to understand Zee without having to bring them into a physical venue from different parts of the organization or different parts of the country. So again, this is a problem I think everyone's already dealt with. Or companies have experimented with, and we have experimented with different formats of virtual inductions and solving some of these problems. I ran into Amit through a mutual acquaintance that we had. Amit and my CEO of our linear business had been in school together. And that's when we started this conversation on gamification. Simulations and gamification, I think, have been really the best ways in which you can deliver messages, you can build skills, you can do all kinds of things, but more on that later. And that's where our journey started. The other, and I'll stop after this and hand it over back to you, Amit. My experience of gamification, and that's been my biggest insight as we've adopted more and more gamification in everything that we do, is there is such a large difference between implementation of platforms and adoption of platforms. I don't know about a lot of people in the audience, but I found that while implementation is relatively easier, adoption is really looks like herding cats or trying to climb a greased pole. Carrots and sticks don't often work, and HR teams have to spend inordinate amounts of time trying to get the whichever platform, technology, or solution that we implemented brought up for widespread use. And where gamification makes a huge difference is in its very nature, it is designed for easier adoption. And that's what we found also in the way that we built out a digital induction. So these were all of the reasons why we actually went into gamification. It was more efficient, both from a time as well as cost perspective. It was much more consistent, uh, definitely more engaging, and helped us focus by reducing HR time into a completely different way. And in effect, finally, uh, our theme line is extraordinary together. Really got employees to understand the Z culture, ethos, and a whole bunch of other operational details, including policy and guidelines uh, and various other pieces that are imperative before you start operating in an organization within the first 48 to 72 hours of a person joining and coming on board for all the new hires. So for us, it's been quite the unqualified success. But Amit, back to you for more details on this.
Thank you, Animesh. Thank you. I particularly like the way you put it. Of course, there are benefits of learning that you can get in most transitions from physical to digital. But then here, what you really were looking for, how people can connect with the ethos and values of the company apart from the operational details. I think that's exactly where the solution probably worked really well. So if we can get to a little bit of the solution itself, the design and development and what we were thinking about it, there were three main considerations that we had for creating this gamified solution. Uh, as Animesh just said, it was a slightly longish induction program, about 1.5 days in the physical world. Even the digital version was going to be 4 or 5 hours. Ultimately, it was just under 5 hours. So for such a long digital program, we need higher engagement. Interactivity was one of the areas that we obviously focused on. Also, to let people go through the 5-hour program, 4.5-hour program, we thought of creating a journey which could help them tackle different challenges during the journey, of course, fictitious challenges, and understand different parts of Z along the way. And it also gives you a kind of a direction in which you are going on a slightly longish program. And we depended a lot on a story-based approach that we included with that. Extraordinary Together is a theme that was paramount to be covered in this program. It was a campaign, I believe, was running for the external world as well as for internal world. And the three main tenets that they had identified for being extraordinary together were togetherness, disruption, and celebration. So we tried to bring that into the solution also by aligning it with the different activities that learners were doing in the program. So I'll just give you a glimpse of how the program looked. So we started off with a attention grabbing video or animal which welcomed you into the program, but also detailed what are the things that you would find in the program. So just to give you a kind of an overview of the program. So of course a celestial world, and we had a Z universe created where a new mini lands with a little bit of a hero or a protagonist type of avatar. And then we get into the program where you carry on and you have multiple maps that have been created. Each map is essentially different parts of the program that we want learners to go through. And the map itself contained topics within it. This area is essentially to give learners a view of their progress during the program, wherever they were. After you've been through certain sections of the program, you'll start seeing progress on the togetherness, disruption, and celebration parameters. How that works is through 2 or 3 elements within the journey that you encounter. So you would get cards, and gems. Now, this is a wallet which shows you how many cards you have already captured, 8, and gems that you have earned. So you are essentially, so cards are kind of coming in and posing questions to you based on the content that you are reading, and gems are when you answer those questions correctly. These cards are essentially the A cards. You would be aligning them to different themes, like this is togetherness, this is celebration, and you need to activate these cards to be able to unlock the end game. So essentially, there are smaller tasks that you're doing through the journey, and then once you've completed all of those smaller tasks, you can enable the end game. With the gems, you are able to purchase some merchandise for your avatar. So you can make it look unique based on what you are purchasing. Uh, so this is the structure that you have for the gamification elements. But then, of course, the content itself was crucial. The way we presented it and what we talk about over there. We were lucky, of course, that Zee itself has a lot of great quality video content for various things. So we were able to leverage some of that from their library and use it within the content wherever it was relevant. Apart from that, we had different ways of printing content for our learners here, so that they find it interesting and interactive in a way. So it is not just to click and reveal, but much more than that. So we also had, you know, as of course you would imagine in an onboarding program, you would have the policies, etc. So there were ways in which they were presented in an interesting way, as there were a lot of policies throughout that program. What we also did well, I believe, is to present scenarios at various stages, because just presenting content and asking a few questions which would be via the cards would not really help retain a lot of that information. So scenarios was our way of really putting learners into some sort of a situation to see whether they are grasping it or not, and through feedback they could you know, reflect on it and possibly learn better and retain a little more. So that's really a glimpse into the program that we ended up creating. That brings us to, sorry, I'm was saying something.
No, I was. Go ahead, please.
All right. Okay. So we have a few key insights that we thought we would, be able to share with you, and I will invite Animesh to please share his thoughts on these. The one that really stood out for us throughout this journey was the client vendor partnership, which we believe is crucial for programs like these, which are, they don't really move in a straight line. You have many points of rethinking, redesign. So it can take slightly circuitous route, and it can frustrate people. Uh, Again, we were lucky that the vision came from animation. There was much higher, commitment to the whole program from the whole team. I think it worked really well. But otherwise, programs like these could be a little challenging and frustrating for people to work with as you improving on what you have already produced. But anyway, your thoughts on this?
I fully agree. In fact, I remember some of the instances when, because of some issues on versions of internet browsers, where we went through so many hoops, and it was only the fact that at every level in the organization, both between you and me and then at the operating team levels, there was complete connect that, look, we need to solve this problem together. So whether it is about changing some code at the product end or pushing the buttons with the technology team at the Z end, whatever it took, the teams really worked through that to find solutions, unlike what happens in many situations where it becomes a you versus me dialogue, and then the whole thing really tends to spiral out of control. So can't agree with this more.
Absolutely. Yeah, it was, whatever it takes kind of attitude that the teams had, which really got us to a good end point. We were also very happy with the kind of feedback that we got from the audience, including people at very high designations, CXO levels. They were very pleased with the way the program was laid out, and at the same time, for some of them, it was almost like rediscovering Zee. So, and that was a great compliment, for people. So here you are creating an induction program, and then you have people who have been with the organization for some time are also finding something really meaningful and worthwhile in that program. Some of them even commented it felt like a high-end game, though it wasn't really. But Animesh, I'm sure you've heard more than this.
Yeah, so one of the biggest grouse that a lot of business leaders, and sometimes they speak from both ends of the spectrum, is the induction is not happening, and at the same time they will find it very difficult to release their employees for induction. So this solved that problem in a huge way. So both at the individual experience level as well as at the business level, there was very substantive feedback and support, positive support around this exercise. And if I might add, Amit, I think the one learning I had in this entire process and was really sweating the design, where we went and tested the program with different cohorts of people much younger than the normal cohort that you would typically test with. And the program design, whether the creative or the journeys or the experience, wasn't signed off by senior leaders. It was entirely tested through archetypes that would represent real users. And that's what I think was a big driver of why this has been successful.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's exactly why we listed as one of the key wins from the program, which is how to really sweat the design in a way that it leads to a meaningful, efficient, and effective output. A couple of other things that I think we had was, of course, as we started off at the beginning, turning to digital would have some benefits in terms of time, money, effort, and we did realize that. It has also become some sort of a benchmark, not in terms of just the quality of output, but also processes. So as we have gone through this, I think there are step-by-step processes that both the organizations have really understood what to take care of going forward. So I think this is a program which is going to help future programs that we work. And of course, the most satisfying part was also winning 2 awards for this very program over the last year. I think that's all from our side. We would want to open it up for any questions that.
Animesh, thank you so much. So again, any questions that you have from all of our listeners, please put them through on. And I'll kick off as our earlier presenter with a couple of questions. And as I like to do with all of these things, is talk about some of the challenges and how became them individually or with other people in your team. Because as with anything, in serious education design, getting an idea off the ground has so many moving parts. So I'll start with you, Animesh. One of the big kind of challenges for you, and how did you overcome them in this project?
I think the biggest one, Betty, was really about building credibility around the fact that we could deliver, which is as important and as critical as an induction through a gamified version. There's just a lot of disbelief or doubt about that. Will you really be able to replicate everything that we are able to deliver in an induction in a gamified version? And that required a process of continuous conversations with at the senior-most levels to make sure that there was broad support. And then when we delivered the program, I think the penny dropped, and then therefore there's a lot more buy-in into using gamification more widely in the organization now, across a different both employee organization interface products, but also in business products. How do you bring gamification into play in a lot of those areas?
Yeah. Thank you, Animesh.
Sorry, Barry.
Thank you. No, it's okay. I was just going to say there is so much cynicism about gamification, and I think for all of us as gamification designers and practitioners, part of our job is in that doubt, as well as to build engaging and buy into the company that we're working on. So thank you, Animesh, for sharing that, because I think a lot of people will resonate. In working on a project, there might be an initial challenge to overcome some doubt and things like that. So thank you. And what about you, Amit? What was one of the biggest for you, individual working project, and how did you overcome that challenge?
Yeah, I think it was about how the desires kept moving and the bits kept adding to the program. I think it's about constantly improving what we had. So we can talk about saying maybe the scope was getting a little, enhanced, but at the same time, like I mentioned, as one of the big wins was the true client-vendor partnership that we had here. So, and we were able to, overcome that really because we worked together to see that we want to produce a good output. If a suggestion is looking good, let's go at whatever it takes. So I think it would have been a unsurmountable challenge if I had the support of Animesh and his team. But I think it worked out very well.
Thanks. And so we've got, I'm not sure how long ago this was done, but have you heard any long-term out from participation by the employees? And that's from Adam, who's listening in. So, yeah, that's a great question, actually. So has there been some lapsed time which you could really reconnect with the employees and kind of hear their feedback after 2-3 months? When did you launch this project?
Adam, we did this project just around about 3 or 4 months before COVID burst forth on the scene. So in that sense, it was heaven sent, because we had a program where we were able to induct all of the virtual shifts that across the world that we all had to do in our workspaces. Let me take the opportunity to share one of the challenges of gamification, and which is that because it is effort heavy, updating the gamification workshop or updating content in gamification takes a little more. It's not just a switch in and switch out. It takes a little more money than I expected to update content. So one needs to be careful in terms of the point in time at which you do gamification and how holistic you can make it, because unlike a PPT, you can't keep switching content in and out on an everyday basis.
Right. And just to follow up from that comment, did you? And this can be a very straight yes or no. It's quite tough. Did you find that the financial investment was worth it?
Oh, absolutely. In the first part, 100%. We saved a lot of money by cutting out classroom inductions and just money, sustainability, our green commitments. All of those were big ticks of moving from a physical induction to a gamified induction format.
Wonderful. Well, Amit and Animesh, that's all we have time for. But thank you so much both for joining, sharing your work with us all today. And indeed, the reason why it's so important to have like this, where we meet and collaborate and share from around the world, is incredibly inspiring. So thank you both.